In this video, we're going to show you how to install a tangerine and wine red metallic epoxy floor. All right, so we're going to go ahead now and we're going to pre-mix our metallic pigment inside just the A portion of the 3-gallon epoxy kit. So we recommend one 16-ounce jar of our pigment for each 3-gallon kit of the metallic epoxy. And we're once again pre-mixing this in our A because we're going to spend about 10 minutes mixing each kit of epoxy beforehand. If we wait until we've already started the floor to do this, obviously we're wasting valuable time mixing the pigment. So we're going to pre-mix it just in the A part, and whether we have one 3-gallon kit or whether we're doing a project that involves 30 3-gallon kits, the process is the same. We're going to line up our buckets. We're going to pour in the A portion of each kit into a bucket. We're going to put in our metallic pigment, and then we're going to mix each one with a drill and a mixing paddle for about 10 minutes. So we're going to see how this process is done now. So as you can see, we want to start off nice and slow with the drill, and we're kind of just getting the pigment wet inside of the material. And then once it's been saturated, then we can go ahead and we can speed up the drill so that we can thoroughly mix the pigment inside of the A part of our epoxy kit. All right, so after we've mixed the pigment for just a few minutes, we want to go ahead and take something to scrape the sides of the bucket to make sure that we get all of the pigment that's now stuck to the side of the bucket. We want to make sure that we get that off and that it also gets down into the resin and becomes part of our mixture here. So in this case, we're using a margin trowel, but we can use a paint stick, just really anything that we can use, any tool that we can find that will be able to scrape the inside of the bucket and get that pigment that's stuck to the sides of our mixing container down into the resin. All right, so now that we've got that thoroughly mixed, we're going to go ahead and repeat that process for our second color. And like I said, whether we have one kit that we're mixing or whether we're mixing 30 kits, 40 kits, whatever it may be for a large project, this process is the same. And we know that this is really quite boring, but we feel that it really helps to enhance the look of the floor. We get the pigment dispersed properly into the material, and we're less likely, or we're eliminating one of the causes of the little comet tails or streaks that we sometimes might find in portions of the floor. And again, those streaks that we see, many of you may know what I'm talking about. Mostly they're caused by dirt on the floor, but it can be caused by unmixed or improperly mixed pigment. So we're taking our time, spending about 10 minutes or so for each 3-gallon kit. and we're eliminating that as one of the causes for that issue. So again, we're scraping the inside of the bucket, and we're gonna make sure that all of the pigment gets down into the resin so that it becomes part of the mixed kit. So we'll go ahead and just continue to mix for about 10 minutes, and then once that's done, then we'll move on to actually pouring in the B part, which is the hardener, and then installing it on the floor. All right, so here we are. We've got our pigment mix, and now we're adding our B part, which is the hardener, into the A part resin. And again, our epoxy kits are a 2-to-1 mix, so there's 2 parts of A, and now we're adding in the 1 part of B, which is 1 gallon of B in total. So we're adding that into the A part, and then we're gonna go ahead and mix that with the drill for about 2.5 minutes or so. And the reason why we're now adding the B part is simply because we're ready to install the floor. So everything that you saw before this, the mixing of the pigments, that was just all part of our prep work. All right, so we'll go ahead and mix this up with our drill and mixing paddle. We've got the B combined with the A portion, and we're gonna go ahead and mix that for about 2.5 minutes or so, and then we're gonna take it and immediately pour it out on the floor. We do not want to leave this mixed A and B part in the bucket. That is a recipe for disaster, as it will start generating its own heat and will cure very, very quickly. In fact, it can happen in just a matter of minutes, depending on conditions. So we're going to go ahead and just keep mixing this for about another 1.5 minutes or so, and then we're going to take it and immediately pour it out onto the floor. All right, so we've just mixed up our epoxy kit here. We've included the A and the B, or we've combined the A and the B together. And we're immediately taking it now to pour it on the floor, because we don't want this mixed material to sit and generate heat, which is gonna cause it to harden right in the bucket. So after we mix, we take it and we immediately get it out onto the floor. That's what gives us maximum working time, up to 45 minutes, or in some cases even longer. Of course, everything is temperature dependent, how the material was stored, the temperature of the room, that sort of thing. But to give us the maximum amount of working time, we want to get this out of the bucket and onto the floor. So we'll go ahead and we'll pour our Tangerine, and we're pouring it out in random ribbons all over the floor. So this is a pretty quick process. And our wine red has just been finished mixing as well, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that and get it out of the bucket quickly and onto the floor. So again, we're just doing this in random ribbons. And this kit's going to cover 180 to 200 square feet. It's going to be a nice thick coat on here, which is really going to be nice for the metallic pigments. It's really going to help them to move around and blend really nicely. So we produce these videos for you guys so that you can basically copy what we do in these videos, so that you can successfully install one of these beautiful metallic epoxy floors on your own property. But there's some things that we want to demonstrate that we don't want you to copy. And this is a common mistake that a lot of people make. Once they finish pouring out their epoxy onto the floor, they look in the bucket and they see that there's just a tiny bit left, and they want to get it all out of the bucket. So what they'll do is they'll take the bucket and they'll dump it over, and they'll leave it on the floor like this, with good intentions, hoping that everything drains out and they're getting all of their material out on the floor. That's a mistake, because what happens is there's a chance that there is some unmixed resin or hardener sitting at the bottom of this bucket. And when we leave it turned over, all of that unmixed resin over the course of a few minutes here is going to come out of the bottom of the bucket, and it's going to end up on your floor. Well, the problem with that is it's unmixed. Unless the A and the B are combined correctly, it will never harden. So sometimes we get phone calls or emails and people will say, well, I've got 3 spots that are still a little bit soft on my floor. And then we'll figure out, well, they used 3 kits of epoxy and 3 different times they dumped the bucket over, and where they did that, they have a soft spot. Sometimes it will harden, but we don't want to take that chance. So never ever turn the bucket over and leave it. It's okay if you want to stand here for maybe just 10 seconds and get out as much as you can. That's okay, but don't turn it over thinking that you're going to get every last drop out of the epoxy. All right, so let's go ahead and get this blended with our squeegee. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and take our magic trowel, and we're just going to start to blend these 2 colors, which is our wine red and our tangerine pigments. And we're just going to take the magic trowel and quickly move the epoxy around. You've probably heard us say it before, but we really like using the magic trowel because it's got just this perfect rubber blade on it that just perfectly puts out the epoxy at the rate that we want. It's very easy to control. And the other nice thing is that once we get to our walls, we can take it and get just real close right up to the edge of our wall there, and many times not even have to edge roll our project. So it's another added bonus of using a magic trowel, which comes in our tool kits but are also available separately as well. So again, we're just blending our 2 colors in together, and of course we're wearing spiked shoes so that we can walk in the epoxy and not leave deep footprints. All right, so we've got our epoxy squeegeed out on the floor, and now we're ready to back roll it. But we don't want to take just a dry roller and start back rolling, because these roller covers hold a tremendous amount of material. So if we were just to go ahead and start back rolling right now, it's going to just be picking up material until the roller becomes saturated, and that area where we started, it's going to be thinner, it's going to have less material. So what I've done here is I've left a puddle of epoxy, and I'm going to use that to saturate my 18-inch roller. So we go ahead and do that, and as you can see, it's just really picking up a ton of material here. But we want to do this every time to get our roller saturated. Once it's saturated, we can continue to use it for the entire project. But we go ahead and we saturate it now, like that. So that's pretty good. So now we'll go ahead and we'll start rolling the floor. So there's really no right or wrong way to roll the epoxy. We're just evening out the floor, making sure that we've got full coverage everywhere. We recommend that you plan on rolling your floor 2 to 3 times in opposite directions. And we're using an 18-inch roller, which really we recommend. There's obviously different size rollers that you can purchase. The only size that we sell for this is an 18-inch roller, because this is the professional way to do it. It's also much faster, and it also puts the material out on the floor much more evenly as well. An 18-inch roller, one person rolling with an 18-inch roller is like 3 people rolling with a 9-inch roller. So that's what we sell you. That's what we recommend. It's what we supply in our tool kits. Now, if you see any areas of the floor that you don't like, where perhaps there's a little bit more of one color than another, maybe it just didn't get blended quite as good with the squeegee, you can just take the 18-inch roller and kind of massage it around just like that, and you've broken that area up now. And go ahead and just give it a quick roll to blend it in, and problem solved. All right, so we'll go ahead and roll this floor one more time, and then we'll let it just do its thing. And for the next 45 minutes to an hour, the metallic pigments will continue to move around and separate out in the epoxy, and that's what's going to give us our real marbleized or mottled look to this floor. All right, so we've got our epoxy laid out. We squeegeed it and we back rolled it a few times, and we've let some time pass by, and we're going to do an alcohol spray effect on it. It's very popular, a lot of people like it. It's very easy to do, but timing is critical. If you do it too soon, the epoxy is still way too fluid, and it's just gonna all disappear as the epoxy flows over top of the alcohol. And if you do it too late, it can actually leave indents or little pock marks or craters in the epoxy. So timing is critical. It's all dependent upon how thick the epoxy is, how warm the room is that you've installed the epoxy. So what you need to do is just do some tests, and you go over to a corner and you'll spray out a little bit there and give it 5 minutes. Watch it. If it stays and keeps the effect, then you know it's okay to go ahead and do it on the rest of the floor. If you see that it all just kind of disappears after a few minutes, then it's too soon and you're just going to wait longer. It's not uncommon to wait 45 minutes or even an hour before you do this, but I would start checking it probably at the 30-minute mark. So we're going to go ahead and start because our floor is ready for it. And we like to use these handheld spray bottles because it's very easy to control. We're going to put our safety glasses on as well, just in case we get any splashing from it. But it's a very simple technique. We're looking for droplets to be coming out of the bottle, and we're just going to go ahead and make sure it covers the room here. Not a big deal if a little bit of this gets on your baseboard or on your wall. The denatured alcohol evaporates within seconds. So we'll go ahead and do this all over the whole entire space. All right, so we just continue to spray here, and I'm showing you kind of up close shot here of what you can expect to see. And as the solvent here hits the epoxy, it's causing the pigments to disperse and separate, leaving this really cool effect. A lot of people refer to it as like a lunar effect, crater effect, even like a hammered copper type effect. So it's a real cool thing that you can do to your floor to really enhance the look. So here we are the next day back at our floor. It's been allowed to dry for about 16 hours, and this floor turned out absolutely amazing. This is our tangerine and our wine red metallic pigment combination. The only other thing we need to do now is decide which top coat we're going to put on this floor. But you can install a floor just like this, and we're here to help you do it by using the advice that we have on our videos at epoxyplus.com, along with our user-friendly products. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification button so that you don't miss our latest videos.